Most people actually think that belly fat is actually just about that diet and exercise, but that's exactly why they stay stuck. So if you've been eating clean, you've been working out, and you still can't lose that belly fat, it's not your fault. Your body is actually holding on to fat for a reason. And until you fix what's really causing stress belly, no amount of diet or cardio will actually help. All right, so today what I'm gonna do is actually break down the 5 key steps to finally help you start losing that stubborn belly fat without starving yourself or spending hours in the gym. Because once you fix this, your body actually stops holding onto that fat and starts burning it instead, which is exactly what we all want. So if you're struggling with belly fat that just won't budge no matter what you do, it's actually not just the food or exercise, it's actually stress. And here's how to fix it. Hey, I'm Trevor. I've helped nearly 30,000 patients lose that stubborn belly fat, actually over 133,000 inches just from their midsections alone. And when you fix actually what's really causing stress belly, that fat finally comes off, and for good. Because most people actually think that belly fat is actually just about that diet and exercise, but that's exactly why they stay stuck. So if you've been eating clean, you've been working out, and you still can't lose that belly fat, it's not your fault. Your body is actually holding on to fat for a reason. And until you fix what's really causing stress belly, no amount of diet or cardio will actually help. All right, so today what I'm gonna do is actually break down the 5 key steps to finally help you start losing that stubborn belly fat without starving yourself or spending hours in the gym. Because once you fix this, your body actually stops holding onto that fat and starts burning it instead, which is exactly what we all want. So the 5 steps we're gonna be unpacking today are as follows. So number 1 is gonna be why stress equals belly fat, even if you're actually eating clean and exercise. Number 2, why crash diets and extreme workouts actually make it worse for you. Number 3, the 15 in 30 nutrition plan, how to actually lose 15 pounds in 30 days without stressing about food. Number 4 is the simple lifestyle shift that actually lowers stress and burns belly fat faster. And number 5 is why most women actually stay stuck in the stress belly cycle and how to break it for good. So let's get into it here. Number 1 is why stress equals belly fat, even if you're actually eating clean and exercising. So your body actually doesn't know the difference between life or death emergency or daily stress. So we heard that fight or flight syndrome. It actually can't differentiate whether we're actually being chased by a lion or not. So it reacts the exact same way to a bad day at work as it would actually being chased by a wild animal that's actually going to kill you. So it releases cortisol. That's the stress hormone, which directly leads to belly fat. And it does that to help you survive. And cortisol's number 1 job is to keep you alive. Okay. So what it does is it actually slows down digestion and it tells your body to actually store fat for energy. Main reason is because it says, hey, I don't know if we're actually going to go through, a food depression here. So I need to make sure I have enough calories to make sure that I survive as a being. So that's what it does. That's its response, is it tells your body to actually store fat for energy. And the first place it actually stores it, it says store it in the belly. Yeah, that's a good place to do it. Now, another thing that cortisol does is it also messes with your blood sugar. So what it does is it actually spikes up your blood sugar and then makes it crash down, and then cravings kick in because of that. So you get an absolute spike in your blood sugar, a crash down, and all of a sudden you want to eat everything in sight and you don't know why. And this is actually why stress makes you crave sugar and actually carbohydrates. It's truly your body begging for more quick energy because it's having a crash and it says, I need more energy to get back up there again. Now, chronic stress. We've all heard of that term, chronic stress. Chronic stress means that cortisol actually stays high all the time. And when cortisol never turns off, your body just holds on to fat no matter how much you diet or exercise. Doesn't matter what you do. And this is actually why women can eat less and work out more, but their belly fat still just won't budge no matter what. And in fact, many times it actually continues to grow. So the question is, how do we actually fix this? Here's the great news. You don't need to actually eat less. You need to lower cortisol so your body stops storing fat. And we're going to talk more about this as we expand here. So number 2, why crash diets and extreme workouts actually make it worse. So most women actually try to lose belly fat by cutting calories or doing more cardio. This is great news, this is the worst thing that you can actually do for stress belly. And the reason why is your body sees extreme dieting and over exercising as a threat. It puts your body in that fight or flight state. All right, so again, it can't differentiate between if you're running from a lion or you're just having a stressful day at home with the kids or wherever it may be. So it puts your body in that threat syndrome, and cortisol spikes higher in that situation. The reason why is your body actually sees extreme dieting and exercising as a threat. And what it does is cortisol spikes even higher at that particular point. Because as you recall, your body really cannot differentiate between you having a stressful time with the kids or a stressful time in your relationship or anything like that compared to if you're having a stressful time because you're running from a lion. It goes into that fight or flight mechanism and cortisol is released and it spikes. And then cortisol and other fat storing hormones actually go into full panic mode in that situation. So again, cortisol, that triggers that belly fat storage we talked about. Then there's another hormone called insulin. Insulin becomes less effective, and that is actually what's released to go to your blood, remove sugar from the blood, and bring that sugar to the cells. So it becomes less effective, and that leads to actually more blood sugar crashes and also more cravings. And then there's one called leptin, another hormone called leptin, and this is the I'm full hormone. Well, that actually stops working, so you feel hungry all the time. And then there's another hormone called ghrelin, and this is actually the hunger hormone. So this hormone skyrockets in this particular case here when you're in that fight or flight, and you actually crave junk food more than ever, and you don't know why. So if you're experiencing any of this, absolutely it is because of that stress response. Now, the more you restrict in this situation, the worse it actually gets. And your body actually adapts by slowing down your metabolism. That's its response. It says, I need to store everything, so I need to store every single calorie you're putting in here. I'm in fight or flight mode because I think I'm being chased by a lion even though I had a rough day at work. So I'm gonna actually slow your metabolism down. I'm gonna slow your fat storage down so I can hold as much body fat as I can for energy, especially in your midsection. So instead of burning fat, it holds onto it even harder. And when you finally eat more, your body actually stores it as fat immediately because you are in that fight or flight state. So your body is actually trying to protect you. It's not trying to punish you, it's actually trying to protect you. So how do we fix this? Stop treating your body like the enemy. Work with it, not against it. And again, we're gonna dive more into this in terms of, well, how do I do this? How do I do this? We got a solution coming for you here. All right, next thing we're gonna talk about here is that 15 and 30 nutrition plan and how we actually help women drop 15 pounds in just 30 days without stressing about food. All right, so first things first, we all have a dream body weight, okay? And this is the dream body weight formula. So you want to actually eat for the body that you want, not the body that you have, okay? So it's definitely a unique approach. So we all have that goal weight. Where do we want to be, okay? We take that goal weight times 10, and that actually gives us our daily calorie target. So if your goal is 150 pounds, and I'm just using this because I use this number all the time when I talk about this because it's easy math, right? I'm basically taking that goal weight, I'm multiplying it by 10, so 150 times 10, and that equals 1,500 calories. So if your goal is to weigh 150 pounds, you multiply by 10, 1,500 calories. If it is 170 pounds, you multiply by 10, that is 1,700 calories, okay? So it works just like that, okay? Now we go with the protein first approach. We've already got our total calories that we need, so your goal weight in grams of protein is how much protein we want to eat. So if your goal weight is 150 pounds, that is 150 grams of protein per day. Why? And the reason is protein actually balances blood sugar, it controls your cravings, and it lowers cortisol naturally. So we're basically working on the hormones right away by actually correcting our food intake, okay? Then we move on to fruit for the carbohydrate fuel. So instead of processed carbohydrates, because this actually spikes stress hormones here, we're actually moving to fruit. So fructose from fruit, which is considered fruit sugar, it actually is the only sugar or the only carbohydrate in general that doesn't require insulin to be released from the pancreas to move that sugar to the cells, okay? And that's actually why we take processed carbs out, because processed carbohydrates like grains, pastas, breads, things like that, it does. So again, fructose does not require insulin the way that processed carbohydrates do. And this helps actually prevent stress-related fat storage and keeps your metabolism firing on all cylinders here, okay? So you have 1,500 calories. you have 150 grams of protein. And when you put that into, say, a food calculator, it's going to equal a certain amount of calories. You get the 150 grams of protein into the food calculator. Now there's fat also because we're using animal products. So let's say like turkey, beef, chicken, eggs, things like that, right? We put it in there and we'll just say, that's 1,000 calories. What do I do with the rest of my calories? Like we talked about with fruit, that is where that comes in. So you fill the rest of that gap with 500 calories of fruit and you are at your 1,500 calories. So we're talking about how do we actually fix this? How do we actually fix this situation? So when you follow a simple formula like this, the 15 and 30, your body starts burning fat instead of storing it. And your stress belly becomes a thing of the past, which is really what we're looking for here. All right. So we're talking about number 4 now, and that's why most women actually stay stuck in the stress belly cycle and how to actually break it for good, because we want this gone. Now, most women actually do what feels right, but it's actually keeping them stuck. They actually cut calories, they do more cardio, they do more work, and they actually try to push through. But instead of actually burning fat, their body goes into that full lockdown mode where it's essentially storing everything you're putting in your mouth. And you're like, I can't win here. I just can't win. No matter what I put in my mouth, I'm eating healthy, I feel, but it just keeps going to my midsection, going to my midsection. How do I break this cycle? So the key to breaking free here is stop working against your body. And that is through less restriction and more strategy. We're talking about strategies to lower that stress. So less stress equals more results, and less focus on willpower and more focus on science. When I'm talking about willpower, I'm talking about we need to get rid of that mentality of complete elimination and suffering of going through 500 to 800 calories. Yeah, that's going to do it. That's the only way I'm going to get there. 100% not. All right, because this is actually one of the biggest chokeholds and the biggest roadblocks I've seen with my patients after working with tens of thousands of them, is that they think they need to starve themselves and have this massive willpower, which is basically fighting against, oh my gosh, I want to eat, I want to eat, I want to eat, and all these cravings and things like that all day. And that's actually completely dead wrong, because if that were it, I can promise you no one would actually be where they want to be. So it's less focus on that willpower, more focus on science and strategy. And when you fix this, fat loss just happens naturally without that struggle, because your body wants to burn fat. It just needs to feel safe, meaning that it needs to shut off that stress response, get out of that fight or flight, and get into that rest and relaxation. So it wants to get out of that sympathetic nervous system, that's the fight or flight, and it wants to get into parasympathetic nervous system, which is actually rest, restore, renew. And this is where we want to be essentially when we're sleeping. We want to also have that when we're awake. All right, that's what the body wants, is it wants to feel safe. And it only feels, or when it feels safe, is the only time it's actually going to go into that parasympathetic and get out of that actual response where it feels like it's being chased by a lion. Okay? So when you stop actually forcing weight loss this way, it actually becomes way easier. So how do we fix this? You don't have to fight your body. When you lower stress, you balance your hormones, and you fuel yourself with the right foods, fat loss becomes automatic. It becomes automatic, and that's the key right there. So here is the key. Number 5, the simple lifestyle shifts that lower stress and burn belly fat faster. So the key to losing your stress belly is this: lowering cortisol by lowering stress. So, and we're going to talk about how, right? Because when you're stressed, your body actually pumps out way more cortisol, and when cortisol stays high, your body clings onto fat, especially around that belly, just like we talked about. And when you manage stress the right way, your body actually stops storing fat and starts burning it. So first thing we want to do under that, okay, in terms of simple lifestyle shifts, first thing we want to do is eat in a way that actually lowers stress instead of raising it. So reducing inflammation through diet. And when we're talking about inflammation, we're actually talking about cellular inflammation here, because when the cell is inflamed, all right, we have inflammation all around the cell. Any nutrient we eat cannot actually latch on to the nutrient receptors on the outside of the cell, meaning that the nutrients cannot then get into the cell to fuel it. All right, and the same thing with hormones. When the actual cell is inflamed, we have hormone receptors. Hormone signals are sent to the cell. They try to latch onto the hormone receptors, but they can't because there's so much inflammation, and they can't actually send their signal inside the cell. So the cell is just basically sitting there wondering what the heck is going on. And that's why all these hormones are in flux, and why whatever we eat, it can't actually transmit into energy and fuel for the cell. Okay, so we need to reduce inflammation through our diet, through what we're eating. And when we're talking about diet, I'm not talking about a diet. I'm talking about actually great food that tastes amazing. And our program is actually called Taste-Centered Clean Eating. All right, meaning taste-centered. Taste comes number one, and then we make sure it actually fits in the confines of what's healthy. All right, is this healthy? Absolutely great. This is a perfect solution because if you enjoy eating it, then you're going to want to do it and you're going to look forward to it. And that is a huge piece of this. Like we talked about before, it's not about suffering. It's not about negating and basically taking everything away. So we feel like we're just like, oh my gosh, I feel like an empty shell. I'm not enjoying anything. It's not about that at all. It's taste-centered clean eating. So when I say reduce inflammation through a diet, I mean reduce inflammation through eating the right foods, because certain foods actually trigger stress inside your body without you even realizing it. And eating anti-inflammatory foods, say like, for some example, salmon, blueberries, avocado, leafy greens, these actually help calm your body's stress response. And by ditching inflammatory foods like processed foods, processed junk, we all know what that is, right? Seed oils and also added sugars, food with that, food in boxes. When you look at the ingredients and the ingredients list is this long, even things like breads and pastas and things like that are also processed. There's quite a process going on here. And if we're trying to get our body out of that fat storing mode and out of that stress response, we need to ditch those foods, especially momentarily, to actually let our body reset and let the cells actually clean out to eliminate that inflammation around the cells. And this allows your hormones to actually rebalance naturally, because when that inflammation goes away on the cell, the receptors are now more protruding, they're sticking out more, and then basically the signals from the hormones come in, and now the receptors can actually catch those hormones and transmit those actual signals into the cell, and they can actually communicate and talk to the cell, and then all of a sudden your hormones start to actually really balance. So again, we're talking about eating in the right way that actually lowers your stress. And we talked about reducing inflammation through eating the right foods. And now we're talking about managing hunger hormones the right way. Because when we have low quality processed carbohydrates, what it does is it spikes your blood sugar. Then you actually have that crash, all right, the energy crash, and it makes you feel hangry and it makes you feel stressed. And no one likes to feel that way. All right, when we have high protein, fruit-based meals, it actually keeps you full longer. And what that leads to is less stress, less emotional eating, and more fat burning, which is where we want to be. So another way, eating in a way that lowers stress, another strategy for that is balancing your blood sugar to actually prevent cravings and also preventing cortisol spikes. So blood sugar crashes actually feel like anxiety or extreme hunger or a combination of both. And the fix for this is really just eating lean proteins and natural carbohydrates in the form of fruit, and then also healthy fats like eggs and nuts, okay? You may want to limit the nuts as well. Some people find that they have digestive issues with them and tend to get a little bit backed up with them, I being one of them, all right? So I tend to stick to things, say like avocado as another healthy fat, okay? But yes, eggs do have fat in them. Yes, that is considered a healthy fat, okay? So the second thing we can do under that category of the simple lifestyle shifts that actually lower stress for you is actually break that stress eating cycle. So stop using food to cope with stress. How do we do this, right? How is the main question, because most people actually eat when they're stressed because food just gives a quick dopamine hit. It gives you that feel-good hit. But emotional eating only actually spikes cortisol more, leading to more cravings and more belly fat. And instead, we actually need to stabilize mood and energy through diet, through the foods that we eat, so we don't even actually think about food as a stress relief. We look at it more as a fuel because we don't need it anymore to give us that kick, to give us that high, that temporary high here, okay? Now, next thing we can do, replace processed comfort foods with nutrient-dense, satisfying options. So instead of chips, we can have crunchy nuts or seeds, or we can actually thinly chop fruit, put it into a food dehydrator, like, basically dehydrated apples, for example, and you can have those, a nice crunchy snack there. Instead of ice cream, we can actually make high-protein magic mousse, or you can make fruit ice cream. We do this all the time at home, actually. We freeze bananas, we basically cut them in half, we freeze them in bags, throw them in the blender, start to actually do that on low, and then we'll actually, once it starts to get nice and creamy, literally like ice cream, we throw in strawberries or blueberries or whatever flavor you want. We've also thrown in cocoa and PB2, so you have like a chocolate peanut butter ice cream, and it's literally bananas. It's great for you. And then instead of candy, we can go with a fresh fruit, natural sugar without that stress spike. All right, so that's actually how we can hack that. All right, now, For number 3, under the whole category of the simple lifestyle shifts that lower that stress. Okay, we're talking about lifestyle hacks that lower stress and they melt belly fat faster. So the thing about stress is it's not just in your head, it's in your body. And here is how to actually reset your nervous system and bring stress hormones down fast. Number 1, walk after every meal. Even just 5 to 10 minutes is huge. What it does is it lowers blood sugar and lowers cortisol at the same time, and that equals faster fat loss, which is exactly what we're going for. It also helps digest food better instead of actually storing it as fat, so it gets that motor running. Second thing we can do, cold showers or basically just splashing cold water on your face. This activates what's called the vagus nerve, and this instantly actually lowers cortisol and stress. So if a full cold shower is just too much for you, no doubt, I completely get it. Start with 10 to 15 seconds of cold at the end of your shower, and it definitely will give you that zing, definitely give you that wake up, and it will activate that vagus nerve, which lowers that cortisol and also will inherently lower stress directly from that. Next thing we can do, deep breathing, and literally 2 minutes or less. And there's many different exercises you can actually look up right on YouTube or anything like that to get, different patterns and so on and so forth, because there's many theories around deep breathing, but man, is it effective. And we're talking slow, deep breaths. What they do is they actually send a signal to your brain that you're safe. So essentially what we're doing is we're turning off that fight or flight being chased by a lion and literally physiologically letting our body know you're safe, you're good. So you're going from that sympathetic nervous system to that parasympathetic rest and relaxation nervous system simply through breathing exercise. So try this. Here's one method you can do. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and breathe out for 8. And repeat that 5 times through. That should take about 2 minutes. So next thing we can do is daily sunlight, preferably first thing in the morning, because it actually sets the tone for the rest of your day. And what this does for your body is it regulates cortisol and melatonin, making fat burning and sleep easier overall. And even just 5 to 10 minutes outside without your sunglasses so your entire face gets exposed, what it does is it sets your body up for better energy and recovery right from the start of your day. Next is going to be lifting weights instead of only doing cardio, because cardio has so much attention, but it's actually not what's going to get you to your goals. Ironically, right? Because too much cardio actually raises cortisol. Believe that? It's true. Basically keeps your stress belly locked into place. So you can actually be wasting your time doing all this work that is actually doing nothing for you and actually hurting you more than it's helping you. Pretty crazy, right? But strength training actually builds lean muscle, lowers your stress, and actually burns fat long term. The main reason it burns fat long term is because it raises your metabolism when you burn or build lean muscle. So every single pound of muscle you have, your body is actually able to burn an extra 50 calories per day, okay? 50 calories per day. And I always tell this to my patients. I say, if you drop 10 pounds of body fat, but you gain 10 pounds of muscle, you'd actually weigh the exact same, but your body would now be able to burn an additional 500 calories per day just by existing, just by sitting there, by you doing nothing extra. 500 calories, that's more than most people burn in a workout. That's pretty crazy, right? Pretty awesome. So the next thing we can do here is actually prioritize your sleep. And the answer is, how much? Well, it's more than you actually think you need, because less than 7 hours actually equals a cortisol spike, which leads to fat storage. So the fix here is to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep and let your body reset naturally during that time. Another thing, laugh more. And I'm serious about this. Laughing more is so helpful for alleviating stress. All right. So laughing physically actually lowers cortisol levels. Okay. That is a huge thing. So listening to a funny podcast, watching a stand-up clip, whatever actually makes you laugh, talking to a friend that always makes you laugh, your body actually will 100% thank you, and it will respond the way that you want it to. Okay. So number 4 under the actual simple lifestyle shifts that lower stress is following a structured eating plan so you don't have to think when you're stressed. Because when you're stressed, that's actually when you make bad food choices, right? And decision fatigue is real, meaning that, we get overwhelmed with the number of decisions we actually have to make every single day. And it's actually said that there's 60 to 70,000 decisions that we make every single day, from do I brush my teeth now? What should I wear? And the list goes on and on and on. So decision fatigue is real. And when you don't actually have a plan, you go for whatever is easy. But if you have a plan, a simple structured plan, it actually keeps you on track even when life gets crazy. That's a huge hack right here. And next thing with that, in terms of following that structured eating plan, is making a simple and repeatable meal structure that you love. And that is the most important part, that you love. So make it simple, repeat what you love. Make it simple, repeat what you love over and over again. So pick a few meals that you enjoy that actually fall under the category of, yeah, this is actually helping me, not hindering me. Pick a few of those and actually eat them on repeat. And when you get bored, just swap in a new recipe. And the goal here is actually making eating easy so you can focus on your goals instead of food stress. So how do we fix this? The less you actually stress about food, the easier fat loss actually gets. So create structure, follow a simple plan, and let your body do the work. And there you have it. Stress belly isn't just about food or exercise. It's actually about how your body responds to stress. And when you fix that, fat loss becomes simple again, because most women actually struggle because they're fighting their body instead of working with it. Now you know how to lower stress, balance your hormones, and also unlock that effortless fat loss that we all want. And when you eat in a way that actually calms your body, not stresses it out, fat loss naturally happens without starving, without overtraining, or without obsessing over every single meal. So if something today made weight loss click for you, please drop a fire in the comment right below. Tell me which part actually opened your eyes most. And if you're tired of the same old diet advice that doesn't work, hit the follow below. I'm committed to breaking it down in a way that no one else does. Again, I'm Trevor. Thank you so much for your time. It is your most valuable asset. I absolutely don't take it for granted. I appreciate it so much, and give your best to the rest of your day. Take care.